Mama says that Grandpa invented a lot of things. What were they, Grandpa?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I came up with was it was a little washcloth. It was a puppet things, and there wasn't too many puppets around, and I made it out of terry cloth. And so at the fire station, to make them, I made a silk screen and I put the image on with the silk screen, so it had the eyes and nose on it, and then I took it downtown and they sewed it up, and I figured anytime I got a patent on something I was going to make a lot of money. So anyway, I had about, I don't know, a couple of dozen of them made up, and at the fire station in Station 13 out in La Jolla, I had all the guys helping me put them in plastic bags. And the captain out there says, I know the guy that's the manager of the biggest department store in La Jolla. He says, I think I can get those in this store. And so he came back the next shift. He says, yeah. He said, if you'll bring these in, we'll put them on display for you. So I took a bunch over to the store. Oh, well, I'll tell you this a little later. But anyway, so I went in the store. I looked at those laying on the counter. I said, I can't even see these things. So what I need to do is get some way to display them. So I got a coat hanger. Coat hangers are great.
Here we go.
And so I made a little bracket out of a coat hanger and put it up there. And actually, as I think back, it looked kind of crummy, the display thing. And I was there one day, and the manager of the store come up, says, who in the hell put this stuff on there? He says, I said, well, it's a washcloth for children. It really works well. He says, get this stuff out of here. And so that just I kind of lost interest.
2-year-old.
But I
What's
wanted.
the name of it?
It's called Sammy Seal, and I have a Sammy Seal in a drawer in here, and it's all worn out, just shreds. I've used it so much. But one of the interesting things was somebody I ordered a lot of terry cloth from the factory, so a factory representative come by the house, and I was babysitting, and he came in to try and sell me a bunch of terry cloth, and I had Scott and Greg were real little, and I don't know which one it was, but he tried to talk to me, and the other boy was in the bathroom playing in the toilet, and I was trying to get him out and come and talk to this guy. I said, where the heck's Mom? But anyway, that was kind of the end of that story.
So didn't you invent something to keep a toilet seat down?
Yeah, it was just an experimental thing, but it was nothing really big.
And
But
then it went from holding a toilet seat down to the old phones. When you take off the handle, it would go on. Did you
So the
invent,
kids
what was
couldn't.
that you invented?
it was called Phonolock, and it was a little
Because
device.
the little kids were always taking the phone off and talking, and then that would
Then you
cost
could,
us money.
well, you couldn't call in.
Just connect the phone.
Just
So they
connected
don't
the
know
phone. So
And it was a party line, so you never knew if somebody else was on the phone when you took it off.
so anyway, that was called a Phonolock, and you snapped it on the phone. It had a little wire that came over and held a button down, so that if they took the receiver off, you could still get phone calls, and it kept it live. So and then if a phone call came in, you had to lift up the little keeper thing and bring it to one side, and that let the button come up. Then when you hung up the phone, the spring loaded would snap back over and close it again. So that'd never work on our cell phones today. But anyway, it was kind of fun.
But
this
the
fun?
telephone company, something they did not like about that. You
Well-
tried to.
Well, I took it up to there, and the guy says that'll never work, and so I put it on his phone, and so he tried it, and he said, "Dang, if that doesn't work," and he said, "Oh, I'll do it again." That was a freak thing. So we did it about 5 times. It never failed. It worked every time. So anyway, when you got a product, you need a business plan. You need capital, you need things to go with, and I didn't know any of those things at that time.
Well, I don't know about the baby bottle, whether that was before Sammy Seal or after her, but Sammy Seal, you had such a hard time getting the kids washed in the bathtub, but putting that on your hand, you know, and you could open its mouth like this and play with the kids, they loved it. But that didn't go, but somebody picked up on it after
Well,
us. We didn't have the money to back it.
I did have a shop in Hillcrest that bought a dozen of them, and he called me back in a couple of weeks and said, "Hey, could you bring us some more of those?"
Yeah.
So I said, "We're sold out." So I don't know, if I was a business person, I could have probably
And had
made
the
it go.
capital to,
And I did get a patent on it, so I did have a patent on it. And the patent was good for 17 years, and I think it's run out.
yeah, I think so. But the other thing that taught me to never discourage him was on a baby bottle, he said, you know, if you had plastic bags and you could pour the baby's formula in that and then screw a lid on it, that would be so handy. And I said, oh, why, no mother would ever pour a formula in a plastic bag, and they forget that one. And then you know how popular they became. My goodness, that would have made us big money.
Yeah.
But so after that, whenever he came up with an idea of inventing something, go for it, boy, go for it.
But there was all kinds of things that you invented that maybe didn't make money, but have sure taken off. What about the missionary plaques?
Yeah, that's true. We were down on the Trojan building, and I was in the bishopric,
In
and
San Diego.
Dave Peterson was the bishop, and we were talking about missionaries. And I said, you know, we need to promote missionaries and let them know we're thinking about them all the time. So I said, why don't we make a plaque and put their name on it and a little thing that shows where they are and their favorite scripture, and we'll put on a plaque and we'll hang it up in the foyer. And then the parents and people will look at that and say, well, oh yeah, he's on a mission. And so he said, that's a great idea, let's do it. So I took it over to, what was that?
Somebody in La
Navajo
Mesa.
Trophy.
Yeah, Navajo
Trophy. And so I took it to them and said, could you make this plaque? We have about 5 missionaries out, and we'd like to display this. And he says, sure, we'll make that up for you. The first thing I know, all awards in the area were going to going over there to the plaque and say,
You made Navajo Trophy rich.
Yeah.
I guess I did.
So you're the one that came up with having the scripture on it, the picture, and a map of.
And now they're all over the
Yeah.
church.
Yeah, as far as he knows, right? I mean,
Yeah. That was,
Nobody else had them. And Navajo Trophy, they say that they're the first one to do.
oh, they do.
They say they're the first one to ever do a missionary plaque.
yeah. And
But
Did-
they never
did-
mentioned
did they say
Ed
that-
Wright.
But it all came from Grandpa Wright.
but did they say that Brother Wright's the first one to give us an order?
That's right.
I still get that royalty check. I thought everyone did.
Yeah.
So tell us about how the fire simulator came about.
That's quite a story. I don't know if you have time to hear
You
it.
don't. How about the condensed version of what it is?
Convinced. We had some people come down from Los Angeles. They were going to do a demo on simulation, and they had 2 motors, barbecue motors, and some things, and they had you had to scrape some stuff off to let this. I said, man, that is too complicated.
Wasn't
And,
it big too, Dad, and really heavy? You couldn't move it.
It's
Yeah.
a Scott machine.
and so
Wasn't it called a Scott machine?
yeah, well, the forest department had one, and they, I think there was 4 machines, and it was in the room, and it took about 5 guys to run it, and it got so hot that they had to stop and let things cool up before they could keep going. So I went into Popular Science and ordered an overhead projector kit and put it together and put a little motor in there. That was the first one. So, and that worked pretty good. And I said, this is still pretty complicated. And then the science advisor for the city came by. He saw me demonstrate it one time. He said, you know, if you could get the government interested in something like this, a government agency, we'll do all the patents and all the finances for it. So I built a small version of it, a little better version. I heard that the government fire service was having a convention down in Imperial Beach. So I wrote up a little questionnaire thing and I asked him if I could do a demo, and I went down.
Imperial Valley.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It was Imperial Valley. And then I had a questionnaire and everybody filled it out and they all loved it. So I took that back and they said, yeah, we'll do all the patents for you. So,
Did the city give you some kind of an award for that?
yeah,
For all the money that you saved the city?
well, the city said they had a program. If you could save the city money, then they would give you 10% of what it cost to buy the equipment. And so I arranged to have a demo for a catastrophe in San Diego. So I had a picture of an airplane flying over the city, crashing into the building. I had the simulators set up. What I did was I covered the whole downstairs where they had the war, they call it the war room, where everybody comes together to decide what to do on a catastrophe. So I projected the buildings. On the other side they could see it, but they couldn't see the simulator. And then this airplane came over, and so the police department would schedule things with the street department, and the whole city come together. So we did an exercise. And so the city says, well, how much does that machine cost? What is the, how much would we, what's 10% of the cost? Well, the cost of the one the Scott machine had, and so I gave him that figure, was about $40,000. And so they gave me 10%. I think I got
$1,000.
$1,000. They gave me $1,000.
I'll never forget, because I was with you, you were all dressed up, and we went out to a restaurant.
Yeah,
What? Where was
You
I?
know,
you were pretty little.
Back at BYU.
So now you were independently wealthy, then what did you do to make money?
So it
What were
took,
some of the things that Mom did to make money? Kept
When-
you alive?
You mean the one that I almost got thrown in jail about? I was making fudge for a Hallmark card store, and I made the white fudge and the dark, and wrapped it and took it down, and man, they just sell it out like crazy. And so one day, somebody from the health department came into the store and wanted to know if I had a health license to be selling it. I think it was Greg says, hey Mom, I think you better forget the fudge. We don't want you going to jail over fudge.
over fudge. Let's not fudge on licenses.
But that really was going good for quite a while until that happened. And then when the kids were all in high school, Aunt Wilma was selling Lavoie's lingerie, and no, I think I was the first one
Yeah,
that
you were.
started it, yeah. And I had a friend, before that I sold encyclopedias,
World.
just World Book, just by word of mouth, more or less. I remember I sold a set to the Calders, and it was a great encyclopedia for kids in high school and such. It helped them a lot. And I did really well with that. You know that turkey platter that we use every Thanksgiving? I won that with World Book.
Oh, that's
But then I had a friend, I don't know how I met her, but she was selling World Book, and she said, she was selling Lavoie's, and she said, you know, this is really easy. You could go out in the evenings when your husband's home and the kids are in bed and,
Was your husband ever home in the evenings?
oh yeah, when he wasn't on duty.
And then when he wasn't on duty, wasn't he doing scouts or floors
Yeah,
or
well, that's
something?
true. But the kids were older then, and so I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And it was really fun, boy, especially you get these wealthy women, they spend money like crazy on lingerie. I'll tell you one funny story that happened. I was up in Linda Vista, oh dear, and it was a hot summer evening. It was just unbelievable, and she had a big bowl of punch. And boy, I just was so hot, and you get nervous, you know, selling and everything. So I must have had about 3 cups of that, and all of a sudden I was kind of sweating and feeling a little strange. And I thought, what is this?
It was your best night ever.
So I said to the hostess, that is really good punch. How did you make it? I wanted to know, did it have alcohol in it? And she says, oh yeah, and she named everything. And then a bottle of vodka. I thought, oh my good heavens.
You can't taste vodka,
No,
from what I hear.
that's what they have from so
I know she came home pretty happy.
Make any money?
but that's something here. I never tasted coffee or liquor or anything, and I almost got drunk at that party. So after that, I didn't drink their punch unless I found out what it was. But that was crazy.
And then Aunt Wilma started selling the boy.
Yes.
And she went bonkers. She started going down to
Logan.
Logan Heights
Oh,
and down
yeah.
those areas.
All
And
the
She did. She really went big. In fact, I think she became like number 2 woman in this company. It was a lingerie that came out of Salt Lake. And I've forgotten the man's name, that Sorensen, that developed it. Quite a wealthy man, and it's interesting how the people not members of the church really liked it. It was modest, and it was made of good material. Lasted forever. And Dad's pajamas, he still got them in the drawer in there. But
I never
the
wear
same
them,
drawer
that's
with the Sammy Still.
and so she really did do well with it. But then I gave it up. I'd had enough of it, and
Because you were rich by then.
oh yes, and then his simulator was doing well, and
You didn't sell a boys that long ago.
no, I didn't. I just kind of
Just long
got
enough to get your
tired.
sister going.
Yeah.
Yeah, got tired of it, but she took off on it for a long time. It really did help her.
Didn't she win a diamond
She
necklace or
did.
something?
She did.
I remember.
I think she was number 1 salesman one time, and so she did, and she really did well with that. They don't have it anymore, but I had a lot of fun doing that, and so I think that was my extent of working.
You worked when you first got married though, didn't you?
No.
Yeah, I did. I worked
Did you?
in a candy store.
Oh, were we married or?
Yeah,
In the newspaper.
that was before we were married.
Oh, okay.
In the candy store, is that where you first started perfecting your skill at
No, I didn't have anything to do with them. I was just selling it, and it was in Hillcrest in San Diego. And while I was working there, they had an earthquake. And this chandelier in this little shop, I think it was called a chocolate shop. And man, that chandelier started just going like this. I thought, oh, you must be kidding me. This is an earthquake. So boy, I got away from that chandelier because I was afraid it was going to come down. But those, I think those are the only places I worked. But I was just there for a short time.
So, Mom, how did you learn that you could get things a lot cheaper in Mexico, in Tijuana, like sugar and produce